From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Friday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. So very happy to see you starting your Friday and kicking off the weekend with us. And hey, good morning to our friend Miller over in the Weather Center.
Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday
hey. It's Friday. How you doing this morning there, kiddo? Doing good?
Yeah, pretty good. Just ready for the weekend, get caught up on some house stuff and, that good old grown-up stuff you got to take care of.
And it might be a weekend you want to stay indoors. Maybe not so much on Saturday. It looks like we have a bit of a dry slot coming in. But as we get into Sunday, maybe some of the heaviest rain we've seen. And we'll tell you more about that with the main forecast coming up. Good morning, everyone. We're sitting at the freezing mark right now at the airport. Feels like 24. Humidity's holding steady at 88%. Dew points at 29. We do have some patchy fog in the area, so keep that in mind. And we've got some slick roads out there from the rain and some snow. Overnight, winds out of the northeast at about 10 miles an hour. We've got some snow from Columbus down to Absaroka, even Belford, getting maybe just a few flakes right now over in Livingston. Seeing some snow up in Harlingen, Roundup, possibly seeing some of that snow as well. Temperatures in the 20s and 30s right now. Highs today, 30s, maybe some 40s. We'll say 30s off to our west, 40s off to our east. I'm going to go a high today of 42 here in Billings. If we hit that high, that'll be a record high low. The record of 43 back in 2019 could fall today. We could see possibly some record lows near Livingston, Miles City, and Sheridan today as well. We did tie a record yesterday when we got up. Our low was 32 degrees. That tied a record of back in 2003. So just going to stay very cold today, but we will start to rebound with those temperatures with more rain on the way. And we'll talk about that coming up.
All right. Sounds good, Miller. Thank you so very much. I'll get on to the news.
Okay.
Our top story this morning. Today, the woman involved in last month's murder, police chase, and eventual standoff will be arraigned on charges of deliberate homicide by accountability. 31-year-old Christy Chavez is accused of assisting Michael McClure in the murder of Sheridan resident Dennis Gresham. Gresham's body was found in a van driven by McClure after he and Chavez abandoned it in Laurel following a police chase. Chavez was taken into custody running away from the van. McClure snuck into a home, leading to an hours-long standoff that didn't end until he took his own life. Chavez told detectives she met McClure the day of the murder and they had been doing drugs together. Surveillance video shows Chavez and McClure being dropped off at the Yellowstone River RV resort and campground, then approaching Gresham's van. He died of gunshot wounds and blunt force trauma. A big political battle is brewing as a 5-person panel gets ready to meet next week to draw Montana into 2 congressional districts. The 2020 census earned the state a second seat in the U.S. House. It will be the job of 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 nonpartisan to split the state into East and West districts, with 1 congressperson coming from each. Of course, both parties have already tried to work this to their advantage. Democrats have a proposal which puts Republican-dominant Kalispell and Libby in the Eastern District, making the Dems' chances to win the West high, with places like Missoula, Butte, Helena, and Bozeman all lumped together. Meanwhile, Republicans want Bozeman in the East, something Democrats are strongly against. Experts say no matter how the lines are drawn, Republicans will be favored in both districts.
The delay in the process is going to take so long to figure out exactly where those lines are going to be drawn. Democrats are kind of frozen for the moment. And there's no big Democrat out there sitting there that I think that could just jump into the race last minute and have a massive impact.
Stand by.
The commission won't officially decide the district lines until November. They'll be in place for next year's elections. Continuing our coverage, the fire that wiped out a soon-to-open Belgrade car wash this week is now being investigated as arson. Investigators say surveillance video shows a person entering the car wash's mechanical room where the fire was ignited, then running away. So far, no suspects have been identified. Rocky Mountain Car Wash is a family-owned chain operating out of Wyoming and Montana for the last 20 years. They plan to rebuild in Belgrade and come back stronger than before.
When this happened, it was like the wind got taken out from our sails, right? But the community outreach has just kept giving us positivity to just keep going forward, and that kind of helps you get back and going.
Webb says the best way to help out Rocky Mountain Car Wash is to visit them when they open in 6 to 9 months. The man who drove his car through a Columbia Falls grocery store last November is going to prison for 10 years. Alan Conyer Jr. was handed that sentence yesterday in a Kalispell courtroom. He was charged with criminal mischief and criminal endangerment for the incident. Conyer drove through a Super One Foods, putting customers in harm's way. Thankfully, no one was injured. Conyer will also have to pay the store over $76,000 in restitution. Also topping headlines this morning, peace is now in place in the Middle East after more than a week of escalating violence between Israel and Hamas. As CBS's Tina Kraus reports, world leaders are hoping to build on that tranquility if it can last.
A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas went into effect early this morning. The agreement ended a week-and-a-half-long conflict that left 12 dead in Israel and claimed the lives of at least 230 Palestinians. President Biden welcomed the announcement and said it could serve as a starting point for a lasting peace in the region.
I believe we have a genuine opportunity to make progress, and I'm committed to working for it.
The president said the U.S. would help rearm Israel's Iron Dome, the missile defense system credited with limiting casualties. Mr. Biden also promised to send humanitarian aid to Gaza.
We will do this in full partnership with the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, the Authority, in a manner that does not permit Hamas to simply restock its military arsenal.
Both sides claimed victory despite the lopsided death toll. In Gaza City, Palestinians took to the streets to celebrate the end of the fighting. A statement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the operation against Hamas militants as significant and unprecedented.
I don't think Israel has achieved much. There are no agreements about the future, nothing.
The government of Egypt brokered the ceasefire deal. Egyptian diplomats will head to Israel and Gaza to ensure that it's enforced and to work on a more durable solution. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
This round of violence began May 10th when Hamas fighters launched rockets at Israel after weeks of escalating tensions over Ramadan restrictions in East Jerusalem. The man charged with killing 2 people during protests in Wisconsin will make his first in-person court appearance today. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 2 protesters who gathered in Kenosha, Wisconsin last August following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Today's hearing will allow his attorneys and prosecutors to discuss details ahead of a November trial. Rittenhouse maintains he was acting in self-defense. Today, Apple CEO Tim Cook will be the company's star witness in an antitrust lawsuit. Epic Games, the owner of the popular game Fortnite, filed the lawsuit last year after Apple dropped the game from its App Store. Apple removed the game after it says Epic created its own digital payment system, which Apple doesn't allow. Epic Games says Apple keeps too much of the money raised by businesses selling their products through the App Store. Cook is likely to argue developers still make large amounts of money by selling their products on the App Store. Today, Republican members of Congress will meet with the Biden administration to try to find some areas of compromise for the president's infrastructure proposal. Both sides remain far apart on President Biden's $2 trillion proposal and the Republicans' counteroffer of $568 billion. A White House spokesperson says there have been productive talks, but no agreements. One sticking point is the president's wish to raise the corporate tax to help pay for the plan. Republican leaders called that a non-starter. And President Biden wants to know how climate change threatens the U.S. economy. He signed an executive order that directs his climate and economic teams to develop a plan to identify climate risk on government programs, assets, and liabilities. The president wants this done in the next 120 days. The executive order also requires the Treasury Secretary to issue a report on the final risk related to climate change. Now closer to home, the Golden Apple Awards are usually reserved for 6 outstanding Billings teachers, but in the age of COVID-19, every employee working in the public school system was honored for going above and beyond. At a ceremony yesterday, each staff member was given a basket that included gift cards to local businesses. The Golden Apple Committee also gathered letters from students and families who wanted to show appreciation for the hardworking staff.
The amount of work that they've put in this year is just incredible. They've done it with grace and dignity.
It really is about the teachers and all the staff. They are all part of what makes schools work for all the students. So we just wanted to recognize all of them.
The Education Foundation raised the money for the gift cards entirely through community donations.